Episode 84 of Mastering Local Marketing. He's Matt Hansen. I'm Jim Deedlow. You all have a website. Let's say, of course, remember, we're trying to talk to you as a medium or small business. What can you do to master your local marketing? Everybody has a website, so let's talk about this. If your website traffic is growing, but your sales aren't, it's time to look at what happens after the click. Every click counts, but not every visitor converts. In this episode, we explore the key principles behind higher conversion rates and what separates a good website from a great one. We break down what makes customers take action, why small tweaks can create big results, and how you can turn more visitors into loyal buyers. And you'll discover the strategies top marketers use to build trust, simplify user journeys, and guide people toward saying yes. Whether you're focused on local marketing or elevating your overall digital marketing performance, this episode will help you understand what truly drives conversions and how to make your marketing work smarter, especially in terms of your website. Does everybody have a website?
I would hope by now. It's been a while.
Yeah, everybody basically has to have a website.
Yeah.
I'm sure you see some pretty bad ones and some pretty good ones. We're going to talk about some of the good ones today.
Yeah.
You have an 18-year-old neighbor, right?
Yeah, so, a lot of people will say, oh, I can't sell. I can't build like a great website. I can't do any of this stuff. And I always remind them of my neighbor that I had. It was this kid that lived behind me years ago, and I got to know him. Really smart. He was going to IU. I won't hold that against him, but he was going to IU, and he was launching these websites, and they were e-commerce websites, and he had a series of product and things like that. And instead of just launching a website, I got inspired by him. Right. So his name is Jake. Great guy. And I would literally listen to him talk, and he was constantly dissecting websites, constantly trying to understand what will increase the conversion of the products that he was selling and all this other stuff. And it got me thinking, and it got me inspired back when he was doing it, because I was actually working with him just out of fun, right? Because I was learning things from an 18-year-old, and he was learning things from me. And his mom had come over and was saying, can you kind of mentor him? And I said, absolutely. And, we talked for probably about 2 years back and forth as he was kind of building different things and launching new websites and different things. Now, you're sitting here and you're like, okay, yeah, he's an 18-year-old kid and whatever. Yeah, he is. But he didn't know anything coming in. He was researching. He was learning what was working on others. He was connecting with people. And he was basically taking a checklist of what worked. Now, again, he was 18 years old. And I used to text him every morning. And I would ask him, I go, like, how are sales today? And he would send me a revenue number every single morning when I'm sitting down having my coffee. Now, mind you, I'm having my coffee at 6:30 in the morning, and I'd text him. And I would get an answer back roughly around 8 o'clock, 8:30, and he'd be like, oh, I'm at 97,000 for the day. And my mouth just started hitting the floor, because he started and it was 6,000, and then it was 20,000, and then it was 60,000. And this kid, he was absorbing every possible thing he could get from everyone that he knew and didn't know. Like, he was literally reaching out to other people to understand what they were doing. And I saw it was so much inspiration to me, because I was just like, man, if this kid is doing this now at 18, what is he going to be doing in the future, right? And it kind of, I started looking at myself like, I feel like I'm being lazy here, right? Like, I need to catch up with him. I don't have the energy of an 18-year-old anymore, but still, I was just like, okay. So, like, I dove in with him and started working on some projects with him, and it was great. Like, it was a refresher course for me and all this other stuff. And so one of the things that I wanted to bring today, we talk a lot about digital marketing for obvious reasons, but from a website perspective, a lot of people don't really look at their website and start to look at it from an outside point of view, or from what works to trigger people to purchase from you or to call you or whatever it may be. So I wanted to kind of touch on some things today. I mean, there's an exhaustive list of things we can talk about, but we've pulled some things out today that I think, if you start to look at your website and you start to question these things, you're going to get a little bit more clarity, and maybe you'll be on your way to, $97,000 by 8:30 in the morning. Who knows?
Let's do a couple terms first. Once again, small and medium-sized business, or small and or even a medium-sized business marketing department. These apply, but you may conversion rate is
basically those people that come over to your website that actually purchase something, or if you're just trying to get leads or trying to get contacts, right? Somebody that fills out a form.
Value proposition.
Okay, so this is the number one thing that drives me insane. You go to a website and you look at it and it's a cookie cutter of everyone else, right? And I ask this, and I've asked your people here even this question is, why are you different? What's the value that you are providing that no one else is providing? Why is it that I should give you money? Right? Like, what is it that you're doing for me? And remember we talked about the story and, having a hero and all of those types of things. So what is it that you can do to solve something for me? What is your value to me? And I think most often when we go to a website, it's me about the company, and it's less about the customer that is coming there looking for a problem to solve. So look at your website and go, what is my biggest value that I'm providing to my customer? And is it, when my website loads, is it plain to see right there? So when we say, having a value proposition above the fold, it's an old term which basically says, do I have to scroll on your website to see it, right? So as you scroll, it would be below the fold. And the fold would be the bottom of the monitor is basically the way to look at it. So when I go to your website, the very first thing should be the value that you are providing to that customer. What is it? Is it you're providing something that nobody else does? Is it you have better customer service? Is it your customers absolutely adore you and you have 10,000 five-star reviews? I mean, what is it that you're providing, and make it blatantly clear right when you get to your website.
So another term, CTA, call to action. You've said your value proposition, and at some point, I don't know if it's going to be above the fold, it might be below or a different page or whatever, but there needs to be a call to action. It needs to be very clear. How do you get that across?
Right. So as we said, a call to action is, do you want somebody to order something? You want them to fill out a form, whatever it may be that you're trying to get them to do. So many people will create a call to action on their website, and they'll put it on there once, and it'll be a button, say, some kind of button that says click here or whatever, right? Okay, fine. Does that button that you've created match the colors of everything else on your entire page? Does it get washed away, right? So if I look at the page, is it really calling out to me that I need to click that button? So if you have, I wear a lot of blues, a lot of purples, a lot of greens. So if I were a website, I'm blue, purple, and green, is there a bright red button, which is your call to action, because it's the polar opposite, right? If your colors are red, yellow, orange, hot colors, do you have a blue button, a purple button, a green button? Something that literally differentiates, because that's what you want the eyeball to go to. We look at things that are different, right? It's just the natural way that human beings are. We see everything all the same, but then you notice things that are a little bit different. So from a call to action standpoint, we've got to have the difference, but then most companies will put one call to action button or link on their page. When I build a landing page, I'll put 3 or 4 as you go through that, right? So there'll be one at the top. You scroll a little bit, there's another one. Scroll a little bit, there's another one. And at the bottom, there's another one. And the reason being is when that motivation comes to say, oh, well, maybe I do need to buy this, there's a button in plain sight, and I don't have to scroll to go get it.
Remind the small to medium sized person what a landing page is versus, yeah.
Yep. So a landing page is basically so if you're driving traffic back over, let's say you're running a social campaign, you're running programmatic, whatever it may be, a paid search campaign on Google, it's the page that they come to. So typically you wouldn't send them to your homepage. You'd send them to a landing page that has the information that the ad was talking about, right? So I've seen people that will do, there was this big push for red light therapy a while back, and this one company was pushing it to their homepage. And I said, what's the point of doing that? What are we trying to do? And they said, well, we're trying to get appointments. So we literally sent them to a red light therapy page that had the calendar right there of open slots that they could then, reserve right at that point. So make sure your landing page communicates with your ad, that you're not just sending them to a homepage and then they're lost. They have no idea where to go.
Testimonials, are they really that big a deal?
Do you buy from Amazon?
I do.
Do you ever look at the testimonials?
All the time.
My wife, I laugh at her because she sends me stuff all the time, and she goes, okay, your job, do the research on the testimonials, right? So she'll send me things. She's like, tell me if this is good or not. And I'll dive in. Now, mind you, there are some pretty shady companies out there that will put false testimonials out there. But you got to realize that testimonials will provide you with extreme value, right? So, the last episode we were talking about different geofencing, and my lawyer buddy that, we obviously increased revenue significantly from what he was spending. Could I ask him for a testimonial? Sure. Would he give me one? Of course he would, right? He's gonna put something out there and say, we spent this, we got this. I would do that all day. So testimonials create trust, and people start to relate to these individuals. So you go to Amazon and you read these testimonials. You don't even know who these people are, but you believe them. So it's something about the human psyche that we believe other people, even though we don't know who they are. We're believing complete strangers, but the testimonial side of it actually triggers that safe, trusting feeling that we need to get people to buy.
Airbnb is specifically, I mean, everybody looks at the testimonials there. Well, in a local area, let's look at Indiana. Here we are, I think, just in this county is 19 overlapping taxing municipalities, and then you go into Porter County, you go to LaPorte County, kind of a 3-county area. Maybe there's 30 different municipalities. If you did a testimonial here in Hammond and it showed to somebody in LaPorte County, it's really not going to matter. But if you're doing it in your community and it's a testimonial from somebody in your community, does that give it more value?
Oh, it's huge. It's huge, right? So especially if people start to know who it is. I mean, even better, right? So a lot of small businesses, a lot of people in the United States live in these small towns, right? So you have a small town. I mean, I grew up in Lowell, Indiana, which at that point had, I think, 6,600 people in it. And, you knew pretty much everybody. So if you start to see testimonials on a website from John down the street, or, Mary over on the other side of town that you've, ran into a few times, that's clearly, these people, right? So from a small town perspective, it's huge. From a large, think of a Chicago or an LA, New York type of thing, we don't necessarily want to know who those people are. But if there's a lot of testimonials on there, or, we've talked about Google business profiles a lot and having those reviews, that people see that as, oh, this is a legit business. There are a lot of testimonials, a lot of reviews there, so I should probably trust this person.
All right, let's talk some design stuff, and let's kind of run through some of these. How do you everybody says, oh, they want to you want 3 buttons on one page, and you want to tell your story, and then you might want to give some sort of graphic or whatever. I mean, that's a lot of information to try to jam into a page, yet you're supposed to try to make it as simple as possible. How do you balance that?
Well, the way that I say it is, if you're putting something on a website, on a page, it must have value, right? So think about writing a paragraph, and you write this paragraph, let's say it's 150 words, and then go back into it and say, all right, out of all of these words that are on there, what can I cut? Is there extra words in there that I can trim out? Is this sentence even adding anything to what I'm trying to say? And you start to cut that down. And it was a process that I actually used to do with my college students when we were doing plans books for competitions and things. They would write this thing and it would be 20 pages long. And I'd say, okay, let's get it down to 10. And they're like, that's impossible. I go, no, it's not. Let's literally go through each sentence and go, does it need all these words? Is it adding any value to this, or is it just fluff? Are we just adding fluff in there, right? So people don't want to read anymore. So cut it down, cut it down, cut it down. The other thing to realize is that the human mind goes from largest to smallest, right? So if there's a graphic, text, whatever it may be, our eyeballs will go from the largest thing to the smallest thing. And I can actually show you graphics on it. It's funny because you start to look through it and it'll say, you look at this first, then you go here, then you'll read this, and you might come back to this and read it later. And it's just literally going in size. But that's what we do. So when you're building your website or your landing page, you look at it and you say, okay, these elements that I'm putting on there, are they providing value? Is there one thing I want them to look at more than others? We obviously just talked about call to actions and making sure that it's kind of a different color or whatever it may be to kind of call it out. But ask yourself, what's the most important thing I want them to look at first, then second, then third, and increase the size or decrease the size of that, and that'll be interesting as well. And then lastly, when you're creating graphics for a website, make sure that you shrink them as much as you possibly can in size, because loading time actually does matter, right? So if you put text on a page, that goes into the code itself, right? So that doesn't take any time to render. It's just instantaneous. But when you put images and you put video and all of this stuff, it has to go out there and physically request that to another server and pull it back, and then it has to render on your page or in your browser. So keep it as small as possible in terms of size, file size, not the image or a video on the screen, but like file size. And make sure you understand that. So check your loading speeds, make sure they're not, the old days of 20 seconds, but check the size and make sure that you're actually doing it very fast.
You brought up a monitor, and I'm sitting here, got ready for this podcast today, all on my phone, and went to a few websites to look up, remind me about geofencing and some of the website strategies and that kind of stuff. So I never went to any of their monitor-based websites. Should they be designing to the monitor and then say, then it's reformatted to the phone, or should you maybe design toward the phone?
So I was on a website 2 days ago that was not mobile friendly, and I was going nuts. Because I'm scrolling, trying to get to the right side of the page of it. So Google, which we all know is kind of the top tier for search, Google looks for mobile first, right? Because everybody searches on mobile first. So if you are not mobile friendly, if your website is not mobile friendly, you are getting lost instantly. Like, they will penalize you for that reason. So always design mobile first and check it on multiple platforms. So, check it on your phone. If you have an iPhone, go check it on, somebody that has an Android device, check it on different browsers, right? I don't think a lot of people will do that, where different browsers will render differently. So go check Safari and Chrome and Firefox, check every single different type of variable that you can. Whether it's a Mac, PC, check everywhere to see how things render. Because if you have one bad experience coming out on one type of browser or whatever it may be, right, that's going to deter people from actually sticking around.
Payments. How do you decide which ones to use?
Well, today it's so easy, right? So back in the day, you kind of had to stick with who is there or the platform that you're on. But now, you can add so many different ways to pay at this point. And, whether it's taking a credit card or it's using PayPal or Apple Pay or what, you name it, right? There's all these different ways. But it was funny, back when I used to do the e-commerce site for the Nativity line, we added PayPal, and our sales went up 15% just by adding PayPal as a payment. Like, it blew my mind. I thought, oh, well, let's see what happens. And literally 15% increase in orders just because they could use PayPal. Never saw that coming, right? And that was 20 years ago, 15, 20 years ago, right? So, where is it today? I mean, people expect multiple ways to pay. My favorite is when you go to do the state of Indiana with your business entities and they don't accept American Express, but I have an American Express card for the business and I can't pay for it. I got to go back to like a debit card because they only take Visa. So again, it's a speed bump, right? I get it, government's different, but like if that was the only thing that you would take as a Visa, then you're missing out on MasterCard, American Express, Discover, all these other ones.
Ultimately, you have this website, and you've taken a lot of this into consideration, and somebody's kind of hanging out, and they're like, well, I don't know. How do you create a sense of urgency to perhaps get them? We talk about the sales funnel, and I'll bring it up again. It applies in a lot of different situations, but you got awareness at the top of the funnel, and then you got consideration in the middle, and then you have conversion when they do it at the bottom of the funnel. How do you create that sense of urgency to take someone from consideration to conversion?
Well, there's multiple ways to do it. You could do it with a countdown clock, right? So the sale ends in 47 hours or even 47 minutes, depending upon what you're doing. But my favorite right now, I absolutely love, is eBay. And eBay, so if you should, obviously Christmas is coming up, so eBay is a great way to buy actually new products and somewhat cheaper. But like, you go in there and there'll be one item, and you'll see in the top left it'll say in 3 carts. So there's one item, but somebody's dropped it into their cart. And you'll notice, like, there's one item and now there's 3 people that have it in their cart. And you're like, oh, wait. But then you sit there and you start to think, like, well, what if they buy it? And then I won't be able to find it, right? So it's created that sense of urgency. Like, it's in their cart. If they happen to hit that one extra button before I get back to this later on today, it's going to be gone. I love that. I think they've done a phenomenal job with that. But that's eBay. But you can do very similar things where you have, there are 7 available. You can create, there's different plugins and things that you can put. Maybe 6 people have it in their cart right now. And then, from a small business, you can look at it and go, oh, I need to buy that before it's sold out.
General idea when the small to medium-sized business thinks about their website, what should their attitude be?
Make it simple. Make it focused on your customer. Another thing that I haven't touched on, but one thing that I always start to dissect is your checkout process, right? So I've seen checkout pages that are 4 pages deep and realize that every page you go, you lose more and more and more.
Every piece of information you want from them also.
Right. I was reading an article last night about a company that took out, it was first name, last name, and then the credit card information, but they also had company as a field. When they pulled the company name out of the form, it increased by 15%. Like, just one single field, by pulling it out, they increased. So me personally, I like to keep it to 1, maybe 2 pages of a checkout, because then people don't get tired. Or you create that like you're on step 1 of 3. But if you're not going to use the information for anything, don't collect it. I mean, you need their payment information, you need their address, and you probably need their name. You don't need, birthdays and all this other stuff. I get it that you want it for email marketing and whatever it may be, but ask yourself, what is more important right now? I could probably get that later.
He's Matt Hansen. I'm Jim Diedlow. We're in Hammond, Indiana, and this is episode 84, The Secrets to Higher Website Conversions. Until next time, we'll see you later.